I decided to print out this drag chain, which is fairly nice, and use it for my bed heater wiring. And I went to take off the bed heater wiring, and I found this. It didn't want to come off, and the contacts are in poor shape. We've got where's the other one? Somewhere in here. There it is. See it melted. Melted the wires and turned the contacts black, so they're not conducting electricity very good anymore. The rest of them are in decent shape. Of course, these are just the temperature measurement leads. These are in good shape, so just one side got toasted. So I decided most likely this really isn't intended for the amount of current that's going through it, and if I put it back in there, it's just going to get worse. So I decided I'm going to go with some quick disconnects. These are rated for 12 amps, so that'll work. And then for the RTD, or I guess it's an RTD, I'm going to use, I was thinking about going with these fan connector that I pulled off of a video card, this one here, but I decided I was going to just use my kit of connectors and go with these. Let's see, let's try that. So I went ahead and pulled the bed loose. I'm going to start out by cleaning this contacts here a bit. Let's see how this works. Let's try a wire brush. Yeah, does a pretty good job. Not bad. Let's clean it up a little bit with some alcohol. That should be good enough to solder to. Okay. So now need to solder some wires on there. We've got black and white wire, and not white. We've got black and red wire. There we go. And that's gonna red's on this side and black is closest to me. So let's start with the black. We've got some, it's a high strand wire, silicon jacketed, so it'll be able to handle the temperatures. And how long do I want that? Or I can cut it too long right now and cut it shorter later. So I need 2 pieces. Well, do I need 2 pieces? Solder joint can handle the amps. Connector can handle the amps, so 1 should do it. And I assume the connection to that, what I'll do is I'll probably bifurcate. Let's see how that works. So if I split this, you can see it's a high strand, very high strand wire. So yeah, I think that'll work. I'm going to start out by tinning that. Got some flux I can dip this into, so I'm going to do that. That's all fluxed up now. Let's see if my soldering iron is hot enough. Yep. And we'll tin this. I'm going to go ahead and tin all of these. That will tell me how well I did on cleaning it. There's that one spot there. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. It looks ugly right now, but when I put some flux on it before I solder this, it'll look okay. Okay, so let's get this bent. Like so. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with some red wire. Same length. Strip it the same to right there. this habit of twisting it when I take the insulation off, but in this case I've got to split it anyway, so I'm going to have to unravel that. There we go. Split into two as best as I can estimate. And dip that in some flux I have over here. There we go. There's some real smoky flux, but it's great for, especially for microelectronics. There we go. One strand sticking out there. Smooth that down. There we go. And do the same thing with this one. Get it bent to where it hits the contacts correctly. So like that. Looks about right. So by doing it that way, I can't cover that up with heat shrink. I don't think I need to. If I'm worried about, what I'll probably do is I'll just use some liquid tape on it later for insulation. Okay. Let's clean these up with some alcohol. The only thing about this flux that I use, it doesn't clean up real easy with alcohol. Takes a bit of scrubbing. More scraping. There we go. That'll work. Okay. So to put it together, let's see, how long do I want these? I'm gonna be putting these terminals on it right here. So probably need about that long. I need to be able to grip them really good so I can push them together. Because of the force required to put them together, I was thinking about just soldering these straight onto here, but I'm worried about the force I have to put on this, so this will allow me to keep that away from that connector. And yeah, that's good enough right there. So I can cut that about right there. That's one. Other one, exact same length. I'm going to go ahead and strip and tin this. So it needs to be about that much. Actually, I don't want to solder this because it's going to be crimped. So I just need to get that ready to take off. So when I crimp it, heck, I may as well crimp it right now. It'll be easier to crimp it now than after I put that on there. So I'll do that first. I'll crimp it first. Well, that was sort of spiraled a little bit. There we go. Okay. So those two are ready to crimp onto here. Yep, let's strip the exact right amount and get my crimp tool out. It's a basically mil-spec crimp tool, and it says blue 16 to 14 is the smaller one. So stick that in there, and it's all set. Stick the wire in, make sure I can see it coming out that hole a little bit. And this is a ratcheting crimper, so it'll only crimp. It'll crimp and it won't release it until it's been crimped the proper amount. So let's give that a tug. That looks good. Next one. Get this in the crimp tool. There we go. Yeah. Yes. Get those strands in there, right? There we go. You can get away with less fancy crimp tools. But since I've got these, I may as well use them. And that strand wants to bend back. Let's see, there we go. And a little bit showing through. and crimp. Looks like a good crimp. Feels like a good crimp. Okay, so that's ready. Okay. So, if I look at this, I'm sure I know I mentioned it before. Okay, the red one goes away from me, the black one goes towards me. Like so. So I'm going to dip this in the flux. It's going to go in like that. Alright, let's do it. I should be able to get both of them with one hit right here. Let's see if I can. Maybe I'll just do this one at a time. Okay, here we go. Next one. It actually looks halfway decent. A little bit of solder on there. There we go. Okay, yeah, that looks good. And we'll repeat. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to dip this in the flux. I have a little bit of container with flux in it. That's why it's not in sight. It's where I have my soldering iron holder. So this time I'm going to actually clean the tip and tin it first. I'm going to add a little bit more solder to this one. There we go. Looks good. A little bit blobby, but it's gonna hold up just fine. Okay, a little bit of cleaning. Alright, so now I've got the RTD, or the temperature sender contacts. So I'm thinking maybe doing this direct. So I had the pins setting off there. I'd actually have to cut this open for that to happen, and that's where the latch is. Maybe I should put the latching side where I plug it in, and a non-latching side here. Oops, wrong way. Like so. So if I cut that back, and I don't need this, so I can cut these little things off and just have the pins there, and then I can seat the pins into here and then just plug that straight in. I think that's what I'm going to do. So let's see. So I'm going to sort of butcher this a little bit. Okay, those two little side things are off. By the way, these here connectors are, let's see, I've got the box somewhere around here. Where did I put that box? Here they are. These are JST SM connectors, and I got a kit some time ago that's got the 2, 3, 4, and 5 pin connectors with the male and female pins. So the way I'm proposing doing this is soldering the female pins onto here. And then having this cut open. So let's see. I want to make sure they still latch when I cut them open. So the latch is right there. So I need to keep that intact. So cut down into that without cutting it in half, which I almost did. Okay, here we go. And then, actually, maybe I should just cut it in half. Yeah, let's try that. Here we go. I cut it crooked, so I'm going to have to trim it. There we go. Straighten that out a little bit. Okay. So that's going to go in like that. How much will I have sticking out? I'll have the strain relief portion will be sticking out. So that's 1 pin, 2 pin. So I can fold in the portion that would normally crimp the wire itself, make it a little bit smaller. There we go. And I guess when I solder these on, I want them in the connector. If I'm careful, maybe I won't melt the connector, but if I do, I'll just cut another one. Okay, so that's in. Actually, that's not a whole lot of space there. Oh, but it's plenty. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, that'll work just fine. So this is what we're going to do. And I don't want these touching each other. So we either need to cut that off or fold it out of the way. Let's see, I wonder, maybe I can just mechanically fasten it. Yeah, I can mechanically fasten it first and then solder it, I think. Let's take a look. Yeah, I think I can. So if I put both of these in here. First I gotta fold that in. There we go. Like that. And like that. So they're not touching each other. And I've got too much solder on there, so I need to take some solder off. There we go. And oh, it's actually, I want the latch on top. So actually, that's on the, yeah, that's on top. Okay. So, oh, it makes it easier to fold that over. Okay, so that's sort of mechanically fastened on there already. Let's hold that up a little bit closer. So, then all I have to do is solder it on without melting the plastic. You're gonna have to be quick. So this time I'm going to put a little bit of flux on here. Let's see. I've got an idea. I'm going to turn this piece of wire into a flux brush. There we go. Okay, plenty of flux on there. So now soldering iron tip is a little bit big for what I'm doing here, but it'll work. Turn it really good. So I want to do this fast. Oops, that didn't stay up there, did it? I'll go a little bit further up the connector pin, and maybe it'll flow downhill. Yep, sure did. So now that's not going to move when I do the other one. There we go. Boy, that one looks a little bit ragged. Turn it up a little bit. Yeah, it's better. Looks good. So now it will slide on once I have the pins in there and latch. Good. So this side's done. Yeah, I may as well put the liquid tape on there once this alcohol evaporates. I'll help it a little bit. There we go. Okay. I'll go find a liquid tape, and then we'll apply that, and then we can put the connector on the other side on the wires that are going to plug into here. So one thing you have to watch for on this connector here is if you put too much solder on there, it'll clog the pin. So before I go any further, you test it and make sure the pin goes in each side, and it did not get clogged with solder, so that's good. Okay, I'm ready to put on liquid tape. This can be messy. Let's see. This has got this huge brush here. Yep, it's dripping off the lid. Oh well. So I can scrape that off later. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit. Put some more coats on it. Get this excess wiped off right now. I can take some off this little pool that I made. You want to do this with plenty of ventilation. It's got methyl ethyl ketone in it. Nasty stuff. We'll want to apply liquid tape to the other side too to make sure it's completely insulated. Hopefully the heat won't have any ill effects on this. I don't think it will. not the 100 to 110 degrees Celsius that I'll be putting on this heat bed. Actually, from the looks of it, I won't have to put much on the other side. If I glob it on real good on this side. There we go. Let that dry and puts a little bit more on it, and that'll be it for that. Let me clean this up. The reason it was in a lid was because you have to shake it before you use it, and when I shook it, it got into the lid. That's clean. Fairly clean. Yeah. Okay. So I'll let that air dry a little bit, put a little bit more on there, and then go on to the wires. So I can actually get this completely out of the way when I'm doing the wires. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Let's see, I don't need the soldering iron for the other side. So I can get rid of all of that stuff I had out for that part. I don't need the female pins anymore. I'm going to need 2 of the male pins. They will be crimped with another crimp tool that I have. This crimp can be done with a pair of pliers, or needle nose pliers, but it's better if it's done with the right crimp tool. That went someplace. There we go. So these can go back. Clear this stuff out of the way. Alright. Somewhere there's another pin down there. I'll have to find it. That looks like it might be ready for another coat. Yep. So that's plenty. That's definitely insulated on that side. And I'm going to clean up the excess on this connector. So I've got green fingers. Oh, that's dripping down. I should be able to clean that off my fingers with a little bit of xylene, which I wouldn't want to put methyl ethyl ketone on my fingers. Xylene I don't mind. As long as it's brief. Okay. Take a look and see what the other side looks like. So let's get all this stuff into the container. Yeah, good get. So I do have to put a little bit on this side. I'm going to wait for it to dry a bit. Let's clean a little bit that up. Excess. And excess there. Hopefully it didn't get into pens. Looks like it did a little bit. Oh, more than a little bit. It's in the pins. I'm going to have to clean that up. So that means I'm going to have to remove this. I'm going to get both of them at the same time with a pair of tweezers. Got to push the latch down. I probably should have wore some gloves for this. Can't see what I'm doing because I got that liquid tape in there. Let's see if I can soak some of it up. There we go. Push these back, push these down, and get that connector off. It's off that side. There we go. All right. I gotta get some xylene and clean that off a little bit. And this. Xylene. Xylene. Xylol. Whatever you want to call it. Okay. I might as well clean my fingers off while I'm at it. I'm going to get a clean paper towel. And I need this pried off. Waterworks. There we go. side. Let's see what the other side looks like. Oh, I need to get this cleaned off too. And that's part there I'm going to take. And these can be handy because I don't have to worry about solvents eating through these versus, depending on the plastic, some solvents might eat through it, some other ones may not. Rather than guessing at what's going to work, I just use these stainless steel containers. Yes, cleaning that out. Let's turn this over and see what the other side of this connector looks like before it gets too dried. Oh, not bad. Okay. Let's put a pin in there. Make sure it's cleaned out inside. Yep. There's a little bit in back there. So you probably want to avoid doing that because it's sort of a pain having to clean it up and getting it all over your fingers and stuff. If I had to do that again, I would be wearing gloves probably. There we go. That's getting pretty clean. So I probably should have just applied that before I put that pin housing on there. But in order to solder it on there, I had to have that pin housing on there, otherwise it may not line up. So I guess I didn't have much choice. Here we go. That's clean. Okay. That's getting cleaned out. Xylene doesn't quite do a great job of dissolving it, but it keeps it softened. There we go. I know we'll get the rest of that out. I've got some canned air. Yep. That worked great. Okay, so that's cleaned out. Let's get my fingers real quick. Green fingernails. Somewhere on that xylene label it probably said, do not get on contacts with skin. So I should probably wash my hands afterwards. This is a little bit like mineral spirits, so it doesn't evaporate real quick. There we go. Other than the green fingernail, it looks like it's cleaned off. Alright. So now I can apply some more of this. I've got some around the lip, so I'll just grab some from there with a little spatula or something. Let's see. Got one of these. Yeah, it's starting to dry out already there, so and this is drying out. So it's not going to drip anymore. Okay, the other side. This side looks pretty good. This side needs a little bit. Okay, so that was fun. So apparently there are drawbacks to using liquid tape sometimes, but there's no way, the way I did this, that I could use heat shrink. Oops, just bumped the camera. Okay. There we go. Okay, so that's covered. So I can put the connector on now if I want. A little bit of brush. Yep. And connector goes in with the tab side up. Actually, I'm gonna get, since I pushed down on those latches, I'm gonna pop them back up. Easiest way to do that is with an X-Acto. Let's see if I can add X-Acto here. Yep, there's one. So I'm gonna get in there and lift it up Let me zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing. Lift the net tab up. Lift the net tab up. There we go. And then this will slide on. And latch. There it is. Okay. Good to go. Okay, so that's done. So now I'm gonna get this side ready. Start off by cutting off the ends here. Okay, that's all of them. Now, that's a bit of a mess there. I'm going to cut off the ragged parts. The wire's not burnt, so I can use it. Okay. I'm gonna put some heat shrink on these. How much do I need? Let's see, the wire has to go in to right there, and insulation can go to right there. So it's about the width of one of those, so I use that as a marker. And so insulation needs to be covered up, or the part that needs to be covered up with insulation. I cut some heat shrink. Okay. Not that much. Okay, shrink that down. actually both those wires got to go into that, so I probably need a little bit more space there. Let's find out. Yep. How about that? It's a tight fit. Barely poking through the end there. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, looks pretty good. So, I need to crimp that on. Finish shrinking that first. Okay. And get my crimp tool, same one I had before. Oops. Let's do it the other way. There we go. And it's a good crimp. So that's that one. Do the red the same way, except I don't have to put any shrink on the red since it didn't burn up. And about that much. Just a touch more right there. Okay. Nice fit. And crimp it. Okay, that's done. Now for these. This is probably going to be a bit tight for that tiny pin. But let's see how much. So the mount needs to be stripped back on that. Is pretty short. I'm not sure if that's going to fit, so we'll see. Might have to solder that. Oh, that's right. Only one per pin. That's right. Not two like the other ones. Because this is the temperature sensor. So let's see if it's going to fit. Yeah, I guess it'll fit. So for that, I've got this crimp tool here, and let's see what position I need to use on this. It's not labeled, so I'll just have to take a guess. And then there's a step on this. So the one that's closer in is going to be where the wire is going to get crimped, and the one that's got a little bit more space is going to be the insulation strain relief crimp. So I'll try this one first. If it's not enough, I can always go in there and crimp it tighter with the next smaller one. So, you probably can't see this, but I can see the wire just sticking through. Crimp that. And that came out pretty good. Yep, that'll work. Okay, the other pin. See that what I'm doing to get this to work is I have to the strain relief part has to come in a bit. It doesn't fit otherwise. There we go. So preload this up. Still too tight. Squeeze it some more. There we go. Okay, now it fit. Get it loaded into there. Push the wire in. And look on this end for the wire to start sticking out. Well, oops, push the whole thing out. Start from scratch. Okay, here we go again. Get those strands twisted together. There we go. I think that's in there good. We'll find out. Yep, sure enough is. It looks good. So, that's going to go into the other side of the connector. Let's see where I put that. Good question. just grab one real quick out of the kit. Just a 2-position male side. And right there. Well, I know where it went. It is on the other side when I was doing some test fitting. Anyway. So the latch right there, and oh, so the latch goes up right there. That one's in. Latch goes up. And that one's in. Okay, so that's ready. These are ready. So now I can put it all back together. Although I'm doing something else. I'll show you that next before I put it back together. So let's get all these, toss these out, and I'll show you what I did. So I needed something to connect the drag chain to, and I can't print anything right now. So I'm going to the old method. I've got a small piece of acrylic in here. It's nice and soft. I've got it heated to 375. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mold it around this piece of connector here. Hopefully, and hopefully that will be something I can tie the drag chain to. I'm going to try putting this clip on it to keep one end of it flat, and then I'm going to try to crimp it here to wrap around that connector piece, and then I can fasten it with some epoxy so it's on there really good. So let's give this a shot and see how it goes. Sometimes it takes more than one try. Let's see. I'm gonna start out by connecting this to there. And then let's see if I can get that wrapped around. Well, that's not acrylic, that's Lexan. Acrylic doesn't bubble when it gets hot like that. Ah. Okay, that's not working with a pair of pliers, so let's try doing it by hand. Well, that's a start. So yeah, it's starting to bubble. That means it's Lexan. Lexan, you have to remove the water in it. Otherwise, the water in it boils and creates bubbles. So that's Lexan with or polycarbonate with a little bit of water in it still. As long as I don't get too many bubbles, it'll still be fairly strong. It's not going to weaken it very much at all. So I need to melt it down some more. And acrylic stays soft for a longer period of time than polycarbonate. Polycarbonate cools off pretty quick and it's a little bit harder to form. But I don't think this has to be really exact if I fill it in with epoxy. It'll hold. I've got a couple layers of cotton gloves that I'm wearing so I can handle it. So be a little bit difficult to form it around that. Maybe I might need something the same size that I can form it around instead if I want to get a more of an exact form. Flip this over, get some of the water out of it. And I'm going to take the temperature up a little bit more, make it a little bit softer. I'm going to take it up to 425 and see how that does. Hopefully most of the water's out of it. We'll see. If it's not, it'll turn white because of all the bubbles in it. Normally you heat it up for a couple hours right around the boiling point of water to get that water to vaporize out of it. See how that looks. A little bit soft. Quick test. I think I'm going to take it up a little bit more in temperature. I want it a little bit softer than that. Let's see where I'm at. I'm hitting 450 now. It definitely Lexan, the acrylic, would have been a molten pool by now. If there's still water in there, this is where it's going to really start bubbling. It's not bubbling any more than it already did. That's good. Okay. See how soft it is now. Huh? Not bad. I've got this oven maxed out, 450 degrees. So I'm going to just not bother with this binder clip. And let's see if I can get it to wrap around it. Sticking to this ceramic tile I got in there. Yep. It formed a little bit around it. Not a huge amount. Sometimes though I can do it a couple times in a row and it comes out better each time, since it's sort of pre-forming it a little bit. It'd be nice if I could take this oven up to 500, but I can't. And the only problem is it's curling up there on that side. That's not good. I want it flat. Let's see how that looks. Yep, water's out of it. It's not bubbling up anymore. I think I got a way to get that one end flat. I've got this piece of plastic, and I clamp it in the binder clip, and it'll keep that one edge flat. And hopefully I can get this other end to wrap around that connector. So let's take a look. That on there, clamp it, well, it's not conforming to that. There we go. Now it's conforming to that flat shape. I'll throw this back in here. Hopefully it doesn't heat up that binder clip too bad, so since I only got a glove in one hand. Okay, it's getting soft. Let's give it a shot. What I get here might be what's gonna have to be the solution. Let's see. Not bad. It's conforming around a little bit. Enough to where if I put epoxy in there, it's going to hold. And that side is flat. A little bit of bubbling in there, but not bad. Yep, that's pretty flat, so that's going to be enough to where I can put that drag chain on it. Yeah, I think that's going to work. One way to find out, take it over to the printer and see what it looks like. I'm going to leave this on just in case. Okay, so here we go. Time for a test fit. I think that's gonna work. Looks good. Yep. It's conforming enough around that where when I epoxy it, it will. A little bit of an angle, but I think that's going to work. I'll find out when I put it together. Okay, I'm going to try this here. Got my torch. Let's see if I can get this molded around. That looks like it's working. Do that to the other side. A little bit more. Oops. It's looking pretty good. See, the formed quite a bit better. There we go. Yeah. That's much better. Now, I'd like to get this be a little bit more straight coming out. So, I'm going to clamp it to something flat, about 2 straight edge blades, 1 on each side. So that's what I've got. So push that further in. Okay. So here goes. This has got to be done right after it's taken out of the oven because it's going to start absorbing water immediately. Polycarbonate is very hygroscopic. Now it's starting to move. About like that. Okay, see how that looks. As you can see, it doesn't take very long for it to cool down and start getting fairly set. I think that's looking pretty good. Quick test. Let's get these wires out of the way. Move that forward. I'm putting this on backwards on purpose. So I want to see how the drag chain looks. No springs yet. Okay. So if this is here, and I can put it this way. Well, if I put it this way, I'm going to have trouble plugging those connectors and stuff in. So I want to put it this way. And then drag chain will wrap around like that. That will be adhered to that right there. I think that's going to work. Yep. Okay. So now this is going to get epoxied onto here. And then I can put it together. So let's see. Epoxy. So this epoxy I'm using, you can't buy at a regular store. I get it, as you can see, for $1.95 for a tube of this. If you went out and wanted to buy this stuff, it would be really expensive, but it's sold a local surplus place. You could use JB Weld instead. It'd work fine. So since I don't have the gun for this, I have my own ways of getting it to dispense. So on a small tube I use a battery, and I look at the levels of the tubes, because the tubes are different sizes. Let me adjust this up. So there we go. So on this side, this is a small one. There we go. Okay. So I look at how much that depressed in, which is not much, and I want it to be the same on the other one. Boy, it takes a bit of force there. There we go. Got it going. Boy, thought I had it going. There we go. Push down on it. Boy, that stuff does not want to extrude. Let's see if I can encourage it a little bit. What can I do that with? There we go. Oh, that's why. That hardened. That's probably why it's at a discount place, because it's starting to get too old to work properly. There we go. Now we got it. So it's just hardened on the end there. There we go. So you can see this is going to be about double the amount of the green side. Probably about right there. No, that's actually might be too much. Yeah. Extrude a little bit more green here. Right there. That should be about the right amount. A little bit more. I'm looking at these tubes from the back to make sure that they're even. There we go. So they're about even now. Cap this up. And I'm going to mix it. I got way more than I need. But that's fine. It's cheap. Make sure it's one uniform color, just like any epoxy. Scrape it from the bottom. Okay. Just about there. Yeah, that's looking good. Looking like it's mixed. Okay, so now I'm going to put it on this. Okay. Now if this gets in the connector pins, then basically I'd have to replace them. Because once this sets, that's it. So I'm gonna put in just a blank connector piece. Just to help seal it up a little bit. I think, oops, there's the latch. And I make sure that I have room for that latch and everything. Well, actually, it's going the other way around anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm gonna need something underneath it in case it drips. Right here. Right there. Toaster oven just signaled it was turning off. That's fine, because I think I'm in good shape here. Yep, looks good. And I need to clamp it. I think I can put a little bit more epoxy in there. Starting to get a little bit stiff already. There we go. Looks good. Well, it's already almost holding on its own. Okay. I'm going to put some release compound on this so the clamp, so I can get it off so I can glue it. Release compound I'm using for this is silicone oil. Only need it on this side. There we go. Okay. Looks good. Let's make sure it's running straight enough for this to go on. So this is just one solution. There's probably other solutions that maybe not as difficult as this one. looks good. Here's how it looks. So I'll be able to just use screws to hold that in. Good. Keep this around so I know when it's cured. And I'm going to take, now that I got it clamped, I'm going to take this bed off and look at this side, see if I need to clean up any messes. It looks halfway decent. I want to clean it off around where the clamp is so the clamp doesn't get glued. And once it starts setting, I'll take that clamp off. But I'll get some Q-tips and clean that up. And we'll see how it turns out. So here's the end result. Now I didn't want this link here to bend, so that is super glued straight. I still got to add, I think, 1 or 2 more links, and this will be all set.